Title: The millionaire farmer is astounded to find his daughter kicked him out, hiding $2 million. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down the spine. Something was undeniably wrong. A hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolk's hushed rumors spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important alert. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, drop that powerful like that helps me so much with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The air suddenly felt electric, charged with an energy that made every hair stand on end. The strange lights flickered, growing more intense, casting long shadows that danced wickedly along the walls. Something shifted in the darkness as he stepped cautiously towards the source. Then a loud crash erupted from the kitchen. The sound sliced through the heavy silence like a knife. His daughter Emma stood frozen at the door, eyes wide and mouth agape. "Dad, I think you need to see this!" Panic strained her voice. He rushed past her, dread pooling in his stomach, knowing deep down that whatever was waiting for him would change everything. As he entered the dimly lit kitchen, the sight before him made his breath hitch. There, sprawled across the floor, lay a tattered journal, its pages crumpled and stained. An icy wave washed over him, paralyzing his limbs. This was no ordinary diary. The family crest embossed on the cover sent shockwaves through him. He hadn't seen that since his grandfather passed away. Emma's trembling hands revealed the pages flicking open and whispering secrets. The words leapt out, filling the room with an air of anticipation. "Our family cursed," she read aloud, her voice quivering. "The fortune we possess comes at a price. Betrayal, blood." He felt the floor beneath him tilt, his mind racing. Was this why the odd occurrences had started? Was the strange energy tied to their wealth? The journal spoke of a choice made in secrecy, one that ensured not just fortune, but danger. The name of a relative, one long thought dead, leapt out at him, striking like cold steel. "What? No, it can't be," he muttered, reading further. Each word dug deeper, turning his heart into a clot of dread. The entries revealed an unspeakable truth. He stumbled back, raising a trembling hand to his mouth. His own father had made a deal with darkness, trading away their peace for riches. And the price, the entries hinted, was death. "Dad, what does it mean?" Emma's wide eyes glistened with tears, searching his face. Her innocence shattered, fragile like glass. Fear clutched him tight. Could he tell her? Could he bear to unleash this horror on his only child? The truth felt like fire, burning through his veins. Before he could find the words, a loud rumble shook the house. The lights flickered wildly, and then silence. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and a guttural sound erupted from the darkness, echoing in their ears. Panic seized him as a dark shadow slithered through the kitchen, moving with a life of its own. "Run!" he shouted, grabbing Emma's arm. They darted towards the exit. But as they reached the door, a heartbreaking scream pierced the silence. It was followed by whispers, low and ominous, taunting them. The shadows pressed in, cold and suffocating. In that moment, everything changed. The truth about his family, the curse wrapped in blood, the flickering secrets of fortune. Everything came crashing down. What had he really sacrificed for wealth? Who would pay the ultimate price? As the dark form slithered closer, the answers hung just out of reach, wrapped in mystery. The darkness surged around them. An unseen weight that pressed hard against their chests. Adrenaline coursed through him as he and Emma bolted for the door. Just as they reached for the handle, a figure emerged from the shadows, blocking their escape. He froze, heart pounding in his throat. "Stop!" The voice was sharp, chilling. It was his brother, Jake. But why was he here? Panic twisted in his gut. "You don't understand!" Jake shouted, his face pale, eyes wide with terror as he stepped forward, hands raised in urgency. "You can't leave! It's too late!" "Jake!" Emma cried, confusion written across her face. "What are you doing? We need to go!" He felt the world shift, like the ground had opened up beneath him. "What the hell is happening?" he shouted, looking between the dark creature and his brother. "You know something! What's going on?" Jake looked back at him. Desperation etched deep into his features. "The journal. It's not just about the family curse. It's about the pact, the trade." His voice trembled, the words tumbling forth as if they'd been trapped inside him for far too long. "Mom didn't die in an accident. She was sacrificed." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. Memories flooded his mind. The soft laughter, the touch of her hand, the way she smiled at them. "No, that's not true," he gasped, shaking his head in disbelief. "You're wrong." But Jake stepped closer, his voice barely more than a whisper. "She was the last of us, Dad. The last key to keeping the darkness at bay. When Dad made the deal, he laid her life on the line. And when she died, we thought it was because of the curse. But no, it's worse. She didn't just die. She was taken." Suddenly, the temperature dropped. The dark creature shifted closer, surrounding them in a suffocating embrace. Emma's hand shook in his, her face pale as the truth unfolded. "What do you mean she was taken?" she whispered. "The darkness, it thrives on our pain. Dad thought he could control it, but it demands something more. Blood, betrayal, Jake paused, his breath hitching as he fought back tears. And now it wants you. It needs a new vessel, Emma. You're the next in line. Panic ripped through him, raw and wild. No, he shouted, pulling Emma closer. You're lying, Jake. This can't be true. But the shadows churned excitedly, whispering promises and threats in a language he couldn't understand. The fear in his heart grew heavier. Could it be real? Was his daughter the target? And then, just as he thought all hope was lost, Emma took a step forward. I'm not afraid, she declared, her voice trembling but fierce. I'm not your vessel. I choose who I want to be. In that moment, the shadows froze, the room vibrating with a tension he couldn't explain. The energy shifted again, turning electric. The darkness seemed to recoil, suddenly unsure. You don't understand, Jake shouted frantically, eyes wide. This isn't just a curse. It's a choice we can't escape. But Emma stood firm, her shoulders squared against the dark form, her defiance a beacon. I won't be your victim. I'm stronger than you think. With a surge of power unlike anything he had seen before, the air crackled around them. And then everything exploded into chaos. The room trembled as a blinding light erupted from Emma, illuminating every corner, pushing back the darkness. The darkness recoiled, howling in rage. The shadows twisted and writhed, losing their grip on reality. For a brief moment, he felt hope ignite inside him, but a deep fear settled too. What ritual had she started? What price would it demand? And then, just as quickly as it had begun, everything went silent. Emma stumbled back, breathless. What just happened? But Jake's face had turned to stone, eyes wide with horror. You've awakened something. Something angry. And now it's going to want more. He looked at Emma, fear congealing in his throat. What have you done? The question hung heavy in the air, charged with uncertainty. What next? What would the darkness demand now? The air hung heavy, thick with uncertainty and dread. Emma stood there, trembling but defiant, the light from her surge pulsing around her like a shield. His heart raced, torn between fear for his daughter and an overwhelming need to protect her. The darkness hissed, its negative energy shifting like a coiled serpent ready to strike. Jake's expression shifted, lips pressed tight as if wrestling with a deep secret. Emma, you don't know what you've just unleashed. Before anyone could breathe, a flash of darkness exploded through the kitchen. The oppressive weight intensified. Time stretched, every second a gut-wrenching eternity. The shadows twisted, swirling like a living storm. Then came the sound. A low growl crawled from the depths of the darkness. It was unnerving, gritty, almost human. Emma's defiance faltered slightly as the shadows shifted, merging into a grotesque shape before them. Suddenly, with a jolt that made the walls tremble, a blinding light erupted, illuminating every crevice. In that dazzling moment, a figure emerged, a woman, cloaked in darkness, yet radiating an ethereal glow. Mom, his whispered breath broke through the chaos. Instinctively, He reached for Emma, pulling her closer. But how could she be here? The woman's eyes locked onto his with a gaze that felt both familiar and terrifying. "You shouldn't have awakened me." Her voice was a haunting melody, soft, yet dripping with ice. Jake sank to his knees, overwhelmed, muffled cries escaping his lips. "It can't be! You were gone!" His mother stepped forward, her presence shifting the air around them. "I'm here because of the choices made long ago. Choices that chain us still." The shadows twisted in discomfort, hissing around her. "No!" he shouted, scrambling backward. "You died in an accident!" Reality began to splinter, tearing away at the seams of his understanding. "I did," she said, voice now dripping with sorrow. "But I was not taken by the accident. I was taken for the curse. A sacrifice to keep the darkness at bay." Emma's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" His mother's gaze softened, reaching out to Emma with trembling fingers that shimmered with a ghostly light. "You were always meant to know the truth. The curse chose you, my sweet girl. Only you can break it." Dread pooled in his stomach. Why would we want to break it? What happens if we do? "Light cannot exist without darkness," she answered solemnly. "I sacrifice myself, but you must be the one to truly choose. Only you can decide whether to embrace your fate or spin free from the web." The words hung thick, loaded with implications. He felt the world shift again, like the very earth groaned in protest. "Mom, don't!" he cried. "You don't know what you're asking her to do." "Silence!" the shadows roared, writhing restlessly. They began to blend into the figure of his mother. Her form shimmered, eyes gleaming with an ancient light. Then everything exploded. With a scream, the shadows merged into a rippling void, swallowing her whole. In an instant, silence fell. A thick blanket draped over them. The darkness sank, cowering as if it had lost its keeper. Momentarily defeated, yet unyielded, Jake gasped, stumbling to his feet. "No, this is wrong. She can't be lost again." Emma stepped forward, a newfound resolve blooming in her chest. "What if she's not gone? What if she's turned something deep within us, Jake?" His heart pounded as he realized Emma could be more than a vessel. She could be their salvation, or she could be the cause of further devastation. As the shadows stirred, whispering their vile secrets, he felt a chill sweep through him. "What if we awakened?" he whispered, that familiar lump in his throat returning. Questions hung in the air, desperate and sharp. And in the void where his mother once stood, the darkness began to dance, teasing them with the promise of more secrets waiting to be uncovered. The shadows continued to swirl, hissing softly, as if whispering ancient secrets to one another. Emma and Jake were frozen, both lost in the gravity of what they had just witnessed. The house felt alive, vibrating with tension and fear. But then, without warning, everything changed. With a sudden, ear-splitting crack, the air around them detonated into a blinding spiral of light, consuming the darkness, swallowing their surrounding reality. Time stretched, bending like a fragile glass. And just when they thought the chaos could not intensify, a deep rumble resonated from below, echoing through the very foundations of the farmhouse. "Emma!" Jake shouted. panic spilling from his lips. "Get back!" But it was too late. As the light settled, the ground beneath them trembled violently, and an enormous crack split the floorboards wide open. From that fissure, a torrent of dark energy erupted like a geyser, lashing out with sharp, icy tendrils. It whipped around them, tugging at their clothes, snatching the breath from their lungs. Real fear sliced through him, and he instinctively grabbed Emma's arm, yanking her toward him. "No!" The darkness pierced his ears as it roared and twisted with menace. Before he could react, it surged forward, enveloping Emma completely. "Emma!" he screamed, his voice cracking with desperation. The shadows coiled around her and she vanished into the void. "No!" Jake's heart plummeted, the sight ripping through him like shrapnel. "No, no, no!" But then came a sound he never expected. A fierce laugh erupted from the darkness, layered with a chilling familiarity. It was like a long-forgotten echo reverberating through his mind. "Did you really think you could escape?" Jake, from the swirling shadows, a figure emerged, a person he thought was lost forever. It was his mother, her form shifting and flickering, merging darkness with light. But the look in her eyes was different. It held a power he couldn't comprehend, an intensity that seemed both protective and destructive. "Mom?" he gasped, shock knocking the breath out of him. What are you doing?" "Reclaiming what's mine," she replied, her voice echoing with authority. The shadows bowed to her, weaving around her like silk. "But you were taken!" He struggled to grasp what was happening. "You were sacrificed!" The pieces refused to fit together, a jigsaw fallen apart. "Sacrificed?" she echoed, her voice dripping with mockery. "How naive! We are not as simple as you believe. I chose to enter the darkness, to harness its power." Jake's breath caught in his throat. "You joined it!" The revelation felt like ice water pouring through his veins. "You let it consume you!" "Yes, Jake." She smiled wickedly, the shadows swirling more fervently around her now. "And in doing so, I became more than a victim. I became its guardian." "What?" Confusion warred with dread. "You betrayed us? You left us?" But then Emma reappeared, emerging from the darkness as it released her. Yet she shimmered differently now. His throat. "Fight it!" But as he looked at her, he saw a glint in her eyes, understanding, power, a bond that pulsed between her and their mother. The air crackled. "Join us, Jake," Emma said, her voice low and inviting. "Embrace the darkness. Together we can rule it, or perish beneath its weight." "No!" he shouted, desperation spilling from every part of him. "Family means something different. Don't let it twist you. You have a choice." Their mother's laughter echoed, a haunting melody spiraling through the chaos. The shadows danced around them, taunting him, reflecting the inner conflict brewing in his heart. What sacrifices had he made? And in that moment, as the darkness beckoned, he realized the chilling truth. He was losing them both. As they stood united, he alone remained vulnerable, trapped in the dark. The question screamed in his mind, unbearable and urgent. How do you fight the ones you love? The shadows flickered, coiling like serpents, ready to strike. Emma stood firm, energy radiating from her. "You can't decide for me." Her voice echoed with power that drowned out the whispers of darkness, swirling around her. "Join us, Jake," Emma and their mother said in unison, voices blending into a haunting harmony that sent chills down his spine. The air crackled, the weight of their words heavy, layered with desperation. He could feel the darkness creeping, seeking weaknesses. But Jake's heart surged with defiance. "No! I refuse to let you manipulate her!" His breath quickened, each beat pounding in his chest like a war drum. "Emma, fight it! This isn't who you are!" Suddenly, a burst of laughter shattered the tension. Raw and reckless, the shadows twisted, forming an unholy grin. "Such bravado, Cake. You still think you hold the power here?" And then the ground shook. A blinding flash erupted from below, illuminating the room. The farmhouse trembled, old wood creaking in protest. As the walls began to crack, revealing the darkness beneath, a familiar figure emerged from the darkness below. "Stop!" Jake shouted, eyes wide. His heart dropped as he recognized the figure stepping into the light. It was his father, once thought lost to the curse. But he looked different. A ghastly mix of darkness and light swirling around him, eyes glinting with malice. "Dad?" The word escaped him, choked and raw. "You're alive?" The man laughed, a sound layered with madness. "Alive? I have transcended, Jake. I am the bridge between worlds now." Every muscle in Jake's body tensed. His father took a step closer, shadows leaking from him like smoke. "You thought you could break the curse? Pathetic! It was I who laid the foundations of this power." Emma's jaw dropped, disbelief mingling with confusion. "But why, Dad? Why didn't you tell us?" His father smiled, revealing teeth too sharp, too bright against the darkness. "You thought you could turn away from your legacy? The darkness that gifts you with strength?" Jake felt the wall close in. "No! This isn't right! You can't treat us like pawns!" But their father only laughed, eyes dancing with a sick kind of joy. "You're already trapped in the game. You're part of it, just like your mother, your sister. And soon, you too." Emma recoiled, the color draining from her face. What do you mean?" "Power comes with a cost, dear girl, and soon you'll understand." With a sudden surge, the darkness around Jake pulsated, pressing against his chest, suffocating him with despair. "I won't let you do this!" he screamed, panic rising. But as he shouted, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He looked down to see shadows slithering inside, coiling around his heart. It hurt. Each movement sent jolts of agony through him. "Dad, please stop!" But his father only smiled wider, the shadows thickening, swirling around the room like a storm. "You see, it was never just the women of our family who were sacrificed. You're included too, my son." Reality seemed to fracture, darkness spilling into lights, and Jake realized the terrifying truth. The curse wasn't about power, it was about control, manipulation woven into their very blood. "No!" Emma screamed. She charged ahead, defiance etched on her face. "You will not take him!" But as Emma reached for Jake, a rupture opened in the earth, wider and deeper than before. The room began to tip, time stretching in chaos as they fought to stand firm. "Join me!" their father shouted, his voice rising above the tumult. But in that moment, everything seemed to halt. Shadows flickered, and the light pulsed, revealing a glimmer of hope. And just as it felt like they were about to plunge into the abyss, something shattered in Jake's chest. Something elemental, primal, awakening his true nature. What had been awakened? Where would the shadows lead them? What was the price of defiance? In that moment, the question loomed larger than ever, and as they teetered on the edge of the unknown, everything hung in a fragile balance. The shadows twisted wildly, their sinister whispers growing louder, each syllable wrapping around him like ice. Jake felt the weight of fear, once again, pressing down, suffocating. But out of that darkness came the faintest shimmer of hope. Emma's fierce defiance, the flickering energy that erupted around her, held promise. "Join me!" their father's voice boomed, echoing off the walls, a twisted temptation. Jake shook his head, tears stinging his eyes. "No, this isn't you!" But even as he fought, he began to feel something shift within him, a dark energy starting to weave into his very being, slithering like smoke through his veins. "Jake!" Emma reached for him, desperation bursting from her. "We can't let them take you!" The ground beneath them quaked, fissures opening wide, threatening to swallow them whole. Each tremor rattled his bones, and with it came the damp, chilling breath of the shadows. "Fight it!" he gasped, feeling the shadows churn against his heart. "We can—" Then, a blinding light erupted from the crack in the floor, momentarily flooding the room. Jake squeezed his eyes shut as pain surged through him. When he finally dared to look, everything changed. A figure emerged from the light, bright and blinding like the sun. It was an angelic form, wings stretched wide, radiating warmth and light. Jake's heart raced as he recognized who it was, a woman he had never met but knew from old. Photographs, his grandmother, the one who had died long before he was born. "Grandma?" he breathed, disbelief coursing through him. How is this possible?" She descended slowly, her voice like a gentle breeze, cutting through the uproar of darkness. "Jake, my dear," she said, eyes shining with compassion, "you are in grave danger. The darkness feeds on your family's pain. You must remember who you are." Suddenly, the shadows writhed violently, their screeches rising to a crescendo. Furious at her presence, she stepped toward them, fearless, her light pushing the darkness back. "You are stronger than this curse. You can break its hold." "Mom?" Emma shouted, eyes wide with terror as their mother was caught between the forces. "What do we do?" But her grandmother's presence held a thick energy of protection, absorbing the dark whispers, which were now howling in agony. "Trust in the light. You have the power to choose." Just as Jake felt a flicker of hope, their grandfather's face appeared in the shadows, cloaked in dread, shadows creeping from him like a dark. "No!" Jake screamed, recoiling from the furious faces of his lineage battling before him. He looked at Emma, the tension growing unbearable. This has to stop, not like this. But the connection between their grandmother and the darkness was undeniable. A tug of war between light and shadow. As the light began to flicker, Uncertainty broke through Jake's heart. What if she's the reason for this curse? Before he could voice the thought, it struck like lightning, shocking everyone around. The energy shifted abruptly. In a flash, he saw a memory. Grandma and Grandpa, back in the day, performing dark rituals to keep the curse alive, bound by choices he had never understood. "Jake, don't!" Emma cried, hungry for the truth, which had now been laid bare. And just as the darkness reached for him again, a single scream pierced through the silence. His grandmother's voice, filled with fear and pain. "No!" In that instant, a blinding flash burst out, reshaping everything around them. The shadows screamed as the light engulfed his grandmother, pulling her into the abyss. Jake gasped, staggered by the loss. "Grandma!" But it wasn't over. As the screams faded and silence loomed once more, he glanced at Emma, who looked back at him. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "What have we done?" The shadows shifted, swirling like a storm, and at that moment, a new weight fell onto Jake's shoulders. The truth he had never wanted to see was now glaringly real. The darkness had roots so deep they were woven into his very blood. What next? He thought, pulse racing, heart pounding. The darkness began to coalesce, forming into shapes, revealing faces, flickering memories of those they had lost. Guilt tightened around him like a noose. As the shadows approached, he realized one devastating truth. This was only the beginning. Everything they thought they knew was about to unravel. Would they even survive what was coming? Or had they just awakened something even deeper, more powerful? The questions loomed large as darkness poured in, threatening to extinguish the last light they had. As the shadows danced hungrily around him, Jake felt a rush of despair, a choking weight pressing down on his chest. He glanced at Emma, her face lit with a mix of defiance and terror. "What have we awakened?" he thought desperately, the darkness whispering its taunt, wrapping tendrils of icy fear around his heart. Then everything shifted. Out of the thick fog of shadows emerged another figure, one that made his blood run cold. Standing there, silhouetted against the swirling darkness, was a man he had never expected to see. His other brother, Adam! The one who had been lost to them years ago. "Adam!" Jake breathed, disbelief flooding his senses. "How are you here?" But Adam remained silent, his expression blank. The shadows pulsed around him, and Jake's heart raced at the sight. Was he a prisoner of the darkness, or something more sinister? "Jacob," came a chilling whisper from the shadows, blending with Adam's form. "You think you know your family? You know nothing." "No! Stop!" Emma shouted, stepping forward, her chest heaving. The air thrummed with tension, her voice slicing through it like a knife. "You're not taking him again." But the dark figures tightened, pressing closer like a storm closing in. "You don't understand, sister," Adam said, his voice echoing unnervingly. "Forgive me if I don't adhere to the light. It abandoned me long ago." The words slashed through Jake like ice. Fragments of memories rushed back. Adam's reckless energy, his dreams, shattered after that fateful night. The night that had bound their family to darkness forever. "Why did you let them take you?" Jake shouted, a mixture of anger and hurt boiling over. He stepped closer, although fear clawed at him like fingernails down skin. Why did you leave us? Adam's face twisted, the shadows swirling menacingly around him. I chose. My path, Jake. We are family, yes, but shadows run deeper than blood. There's a power here, one you can't comprehend. Power? Emma scoffed, defiance igniting within her as she stood firm. This is not power, it's madness! Then Adam's gaze turned icy, hard as stone. Madness? No. This is clarity, sweet sister. You may wake the light, but the darkness is where we thrive. Do you want to run from destiny? Before Jake could react, the shadows launched, swirling uncontrollably. But that wasn't the worst of it. The darkness writhed, twisting and bending, and suddenly flames erupted from within, illuminating everything in a fiery tempest. Burning memories rained down, filling the air with screams and shouts. No! Jake yelled, covering his face as the heat licked at his skin. The walls shook, cracking under pressure, but in the eye of the chaos, Jake caught a glimpse of something truly horrifying. A vision of his mother standing within the flames, laughing maniacally, while the very tendrils of darkness consumed her. Stop! He staggered back, horror clawing at his throat. You're feeding the curse! Adam stared at him, annoyance dancing on his face. It's not a curse, Jacob. It's who we are. And in that moment, everything twisted inside him. The realization hit like a thunderclap. Jake wasn't just embroiled in a fight against shadows. He was part of a lineage woven into the very darkness they despised. Was Adam truly lost? Or had he found what Jake had not? Emma turned to him, eyes wide, realization dawning between them like a storm. Is he saying what I think he is? But before Jake could respond, the flames roared higher, swirling like a vortex, pulling them into a deeper darkness. It coiled around Jake's heart, filling him with dread as everything spiraled out of control. Is this the end? He thought, panic surging through him. The questions burned in his mind, each one more terrifying than the last, as the chaos threatened to swallow them whole. And right then, Adam raised a hand, his fingers shimmering with dark energy. And Jake knew everything was about to change. Would they all fall together into this abyss? Or would the tides of darkness tear them apart forever? The shadows thickened, swirling like a tempest, and Jake felt it creep into his chest, squeezing his heart. In the chaos, Adam's voice echoed, stirring something deep inside. Join me, he shouted, dark energy flickering at his fingertips. Fight it, Jake, Emma cried, her voice raw with fear and determination. She was stepping closer, risking the darkness that slithered around them. Suddenly, Jake felt the ground tremble beneath him. It was as if the very farmhouse was alive, shaking in agony. The walls shuddered, plaster cracking like dried bones. What's happening? He yelled, panic seeping into his words. And just then, the air split. A horizontal fissure erupted in the ground, dark and gaping like a mouth ready to swallow them whole. From it poured forth a rush of shadowy figures, writhing and howling, each with faces contorted in fury. Jake staggered back, pulling Emma with him, but the darkness was rushing closer. As the figures surged, time warped, bending like a funhouse mirror. And then, from the chaos, emerged a figure, the last person Jake ever expected to see. Mom? He whispered, disbelief crashing over him like a wave. The woman from his childhood, here, standing among them, framed by chaos. But she looked different, wrong. Her eyes were dark pools filled with nothingness. Jake. Her voice was soft, yet the shadows danced at her feet, as if beckoning her gently forward. What happened to you? He could barely breathe. Everything he thought he knew about his family was crumbling. You died! But her laughter rang out, bright yet haunting. Did I? She replied, stepping closer. I merely chose my allegiance, my dear. I chose power. Power? Emma echoed, eyes wide. You were supposed to protect us! No, Emma, Mom said with a smile that cut like glass. I chose to embrace what we are. I found freedom in the darkness. Jake felt his heart race, fear flooding through him. You betrayed us, he shouted, rage bubbling beneath his skin. Betrayal? She let out a dark chuckle. You know nothing of betrayal. You're all part of this tapestry of shadows. Her words clawed through him, shredding the bonds of brotherhood. Always mere puppets, she continued, voice thick with an intoxicating blend of mockery and allure. With a swift movement, she reached out. Dark. Energy curling around Jake's wrist like shackles, squeezing until he gasped. And then came the horrifying twist. I've come to take my place as the true leader, she announced, eyes flashing with malice. You thought your brother Adam was the future? No, it's me. You will all kneel before me. Jake recoiled, disbelief churning his stomach. Mother, no! But she was no longer the woman he had cherished. It's too late, Jake. You've already awakened what slumbers. And now, we will rise. As the shadows closed in, hearts thumping against their chests, he suddenly realized this was no family reunion. It was a reckoning. The bonds that held them together were now chains, tightening around their throats. The swirling energy intensified, and adrenaline rushed through him. Could he stop this? Could he fight against his own blood? Emma screamed, "We can't let her!" But it was all becoming too much, fury and fear battling for control. With despair filling his mind, Jake felt one last surge of darkness drain his heart. In that instant, the room wavered. Would they surrender, or could they find strength amidst this betrayal? As Jake stood at the precipice, everything he knew hung in the balance. What would they become? What paths lay ahead? Darkness loomed, eager and hungry, whispering promises and threats into the void. The house trembled, caught in a battle between the light and shadow. Ancient echoes filling the air. Jake's heart thudded against his ribs as he looked between Emma and their mother, the two of them now emblematic of the family he had thought he knew. You need to stop, he shouted, desperation lacing his voice. Emma stepped forward, her resolve unyielding. Mom, we can't let this darkness consume us. We're stronger than this. The shadows writhed, churning like a black sea, echoing with angry whispers. Jake moved closer, feeling the pull of the darkness tighten around him, as if it were trying to bind him to its will. You think you're powerful, he called, locking eyes with his mother. This is not power. This is fear. It's wrong. The air grew thicker, crackling with tension as their mother's gaze turned piercing. You think you can defy our legacy? This life is filled with choices we have to accept, Jacob. "No," he shouted, defiance swelling in his chest. "I choose to fight." And in that moment, Emma turned toward him. Their gazes meeting, a flicker of understanding passing between them. She raised her hands, letting the light within her pulse brightly, emanating warmth as if it could push back the shadows. "Together!" she cried, the fire of determination igniting in her voice. They felt it then, a surge of energy unlike anything before, their combined will acting as a shield against their mother's dark influence. The shadows roared angrily, recoiling. The darkness momentarily cracked with their brilliance. "Enough!" their mother spat, shadows swirling violently around her like a hurricane. But Jake and Emma stood resolutely, side by side, a beacon of light amidst the chaos. Jake clenched his fists, heart pounding. "Mom, you can come back from this. You don't have to be part of this curse. For generations, our family has thrived on darkness," she screamed. But her voice wavered, uncertainty flickering. In her eyes, Emma took a deep breath, stepping forward further, the light surrounding her brighter than ever. "But we can break it! We can choose love over fear!" Suddenly, there was a spark, a glimmer of hope that broke through the shadows, cascading like sunlight through the cracks of a stormy sky. "No!" their mother shrieked, the light pouring into the space, filling it with warmth and clarity. Shadows hissed and retreated, crumbling under the onslaught of their love and unity. Jake felt an overwhelming sense of belonging, of strength, and with one final push, they channeled everything they had. "We choose to unite!" they yelled together, harmonizing. Against the darkness, in a flash, the shadows erupted, dark forms dissolving into nothingness. The oppressive weight lifted as if a storm had finally passed. As the light dimmed, all that was left was silence, punctuated by the soft sound of their breathing. Their mother collapsed to her knees, lost and vulnerable. "Mom," Jake whispered, fear twisting in his gut. Would they truly have lost her to the darkness? With trembling hands, she looked up, her expression transforming. I'm sorry. I thought power could free me. I never wanted to hurt you." Heartbreak painted her face, and the shadows receded completely, leaving only the bond of family amidst the dawn. Jake and Emma rushed to her, embracing her tightly as tears streamed down their faces, joyful yet bittersweet. "We're still here," Emma whispered. "We'll find a way together." In that moment, a flicker of warmth filled the air, illuminating their hearts, a promise that the darkness would not define them. What lay ahead still remained uncertain, but together they had forged a bond that could withstand even the darkest trials. And as the sunlight broke through the old farmhouse windows, illuminating the long-forgotten corners, the three of them knew they would face whatever came next together. But as they stood there, holding tightly to each other, a thought lingered in the air. What would become of the legacy, the dark history woven into their family's fabric? The shadows may have lifted, yet secrets remained. This was but a new beginning, and the story was not over. If you're captivated by this thrilling journey, you need to subscribe now. Join the community and don't miss any future exclusive stories. And if you enjoyed today's chapter, smash that like button to feed the algorithm and show your support. Your engagement matters. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear what you think. And don't wait another. Second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. Your support can make a difference. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now. This is the moment to uncover the truth.